The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm inside me. For weeks, maybe months, a knot of unease had been tightening in my gut. Am I Barnaby, a 44-year-old IT consultant living in Seattle, a city known for its perpetual drizzle and hidden secrets, was starting to suspect something was terribly wrong with my marriage. With my wife, Fleur and I had been together for 15 years, married for 12. We had built a life, a comfortable one filled with shared dreams and quiet routines. We owned a cozy house in the suburbs, a testament to our shared hard work and commitment. We had two beautiful children, 8-year-old Linnea and 6-year-old Oliver, who were the center of our world. Fleur, a talented architect, had always been the more vibrant and outgoing one, while I, Barnaby, was content with my quiet evenings and familiar comforts. Or so I thought. It started subtly. Fleur began working late more frequently, citing urgent deadlines and demanding clients. Her explanations were always plausible, delivered with a convincing air of exhaustion. I, Barnaby, never questioned her, trusting her implicitly. After all, trust was the bedrock of our relationship, wasn't it? But then came the hushed phone calls, taken in the other room or out on the porch, her voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. When I asked who she was talking to, she would brush it off, saying it was just a colleague or a friend. The distance between us grew, an invisible wall erected brick by brick. We used to spend our evenings curled up on the sofa, watching movies or reading together. Now, Fleur would often retreat to her study after dinner, claiming she needed to catch up on work. Our conversations became perfunctory, filled with mundane details and devoid of genuine connection. Even our physical intimacy waned, replaced by polite pecks on the cheek and separate sides of the bed. I tried to ignore the nagging doubts, to convince myself that I was overreacting. Maybe Fleur was just stressed, overwhelmed by the demands of her job. Maybe I was being paranoid, letting my insecurities get the better of me. But the feeling persisted, a persistent hum beneath the surface of my consciousness. One evening, while Fleur was supposedly at a late-night meeting, I decided to surprise her at her office. I drove downtown, battling the Seattle traffic and the gnawing anxiety in my stomach. When I arrived at her office building, the lights were off, the lobby deserted. A security guard informed me that Fleur had left hours ago. My heart sank. Where was she? If she wasn't at work, where could she be? I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. I left a message, trying to sound casual, but my voice trembled, betraying my fear. I drove home, my mind racing with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I waited for her, pacing the floor, staring out the window at the rain-slicked streets. Finally, around 11 p.m., her car pulled into the driveway. She came inside, her face flushed, her hair slightly disheveled. "Barnaby, what are you doing up?" she asked, her voice a little too bright. "I thought you had a late meeting," I said, my voice tight. "I did," she replied, avoiding my gaze. "It ran longer than expected. I went to your office," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "They said you left hours ago." Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "There was a change of plans," she stammered. "We decided to continue the meeting at a nearby bar." "Which bar?" I asked, pressing her. "The Emerald Lounge," she said quickly. I knew she was lying. The Emerald Lounge was closed for renovations. The realization hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath and leaving me reeling. She was lying. She was definitely lying to me. All the doubts, all the suspicions coalesced into a single, undeniable truth. Fleur was cheating on me. The next few days were a blur of pain and confusion. I confronted Fleur, and she initially denied everything. She accused me of being jealous and insecure, of letting my imagination run wild. But I pressed her relentlessly until she finally broke down, confessing to an affair with a colleague named Quillon. Quillon, who was her boss. The details of the affair were like shards of glass, cutting me with every revelation. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting for secret lunches, stealing away for weekend getaways. She claimed it was just a fling, a momentary lapse in judgment, but I knew it was more than that. The way she spoke about Quillon, the way her eyes lit up when she mentioned his name, it was clear that she had developed feelings for him. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. Everything I thought I knew about Fleur, about our marriage, was a lie. The woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop the images from replaying in my mind. Fleur and Quillon together, laughing, touching, sharing intimacies that were once reserved for me. The emotional pain was unbearable, but there was also a deep, simmering anger. How could she do this to me? How could she risk everything we had for a fleeting moment of excitement? How could she betray the vows we had made, the promises we had shared? I wanted to scream, to lash out, to inflict the same pain on her that she had inflicted on me. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I needed to think clearly, to make a plan. I couldn't stay in this marriage, not after what she had done. The trust was broken, the foundation shattered. But I also couldn't just walk away, leaving Fleur to waltz off into the sunset with Quillon. I needed to protect my children, to ensure that they weren't caught in the crossfire of our broken marriage. And I needed to salvage what was left of my dignity, to prove to Fleur and to myself that I wasn't a pushover, that I wouldn't be taken advantage of. I decided to consult a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ottilie who specialized in divorce cases. Ottilie listened to my story with a sympathetic ear, but she didn't sugarcoat anything. She explained the legal implications of Fleur's affair, the potential impact on the divorce settlement, and the importance of gathering evidence. She advised me to document everything: emails, text messages, financial records, anything that could prove Fleur's infidelity and her attempts to conceal it. Following Ottilie's advice, I began to meticulously gather evidence. It was a painful and humiliating process, but I knew it was necessary. I hired a private investigator to track Fleur's movements, to confirm her continued relationship with Quillon. The investigator provided me with photos and videos that confirmed my worst fears. Fleur and Quillon were still seeing each other, openly flaunting their affair. The evidence was damning, irrefutable. I felt a surge of anger, but also a sense of grim satisfaction. I had what I needed to win the divorce. I confronted Fleur again, presenting her with the evidence I had gathered. She didn't deny it this time. She just sat there, her face pale, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and defiance. She tried to justify her actions, claiming that I had neglected her, that I had become distant and unromantic. But I wasn't buying it. Her excuses were hollow, self-serving. She had made a choice, a selfish and destructive choice, and she had to face the consequences. The divorce proceedings were long and acrimonious. Fleur fought me every step of the way, trying to minimize her financial losses and maintain custody of the children. But I was prepared. I had Ottilie on my side, and I had the evidence to prove Fleur's infidelity and her attempts to deceive me. In the end, I won. I was awarded primary custody of Linnea and Oliver, and Fleur was ordered to pay a substantial amount in alimony and child support. She was furious, accusing me of being vindictive and unfair. But I didn't care. I had protected my children and I had salvaged what was left of my life. But the story doesn't end there. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from Quillon's wife, Bernice. Bernice had discovered Fleur and Quillon's affair and had left him, taking their 2 children with her. She was devastated, angry, and looking for someone to share her pain with. We met for coffee, and Bernice told me her story. It was eerily similar to mine: the late nights, the hushed phone calls, the growing distance. Quillon had used the same excuses, the same lies. He had even given Bernice the same lame explanation about the Emerald Lounge being closed for renovations. As we talked, I realized that Fleur and Quillon weren't just having an affair. They were serial cheaters, preying on vulnerable spouses and leaving a trail of broken hearts in their wake. I felt a surge of anger, not just at Fleur and Quillon, but at myself for being so naive, so trusting. Bernice and I became friends, bonding over our shared experiences. We supported each other through the difficult process of healing and rebuilding our lives. We even started a support group for people who had been betrayed by their spouses. It was a way to turn our pain into something positive, to help others avoid the mistakes we had made. One evening, Bernice and I were having dinner at a local restaurant when we saw Fleur and Quillon walk in. They were holding hands, looking smug and self-satisfied. Bernice and I exchanged a look. We didn't say anything, but we both knew what we had to do. We approached Fleur and Quillon, our faces calm and composed. "Fleur, Quillon," I said, my voice steady. "We need to talk." Fleur's face paled when she saw us. Quillon looked confused, then defensive. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice hostile. "We just wanted to congratulate you," Bernice said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You found each other. Now you can be miserable together." We turned and walked away, leaving Fleur and Quillon speechless. As we left the restaurant, I felt a sense of closure, a sense of finally moving on. Fleur and Quillon were together, but they were also alone, trapped in a toxic relationship built on lies and betrayal. Bernice and I, on the other hand, had found strength in our shared pain, and we were determined to build better, healthier lives for ourselves and our children. The rain had stopped, and the sun was beginning to peek through the clouds. As I walked down the street with Bernice, I felt a sense of hope, a belief that even after the darkest storms, there is always a chance for a brighter tomorrow. I had been betrayed, heartbroken, and humiliated. But I had also learned valuable lessons about trust, forgiveness, and the importance of standing up for myself. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Life after Fleur was different, of course. There was a void, a space where she used to be. But slowly I began to fill that space with new experiences, new friendships, and a renewed sense of purpose. I focused on my children, spending more time with them, nurturing their interests, and providing them with the love and support they needed. I rediscovered my passion for photography, spending hours exploring the beautiful landscapes of the Pacific Northwest, capturing the fleeting moments of beauty and wonder. I even started dating again, cautiously at first, but eventually with more confidence and optimism. I didn't find a replacement for Fleur, but I found someone who appreciated me for who I was, someone who valued honesty and integrity above all else. Her name was Niam, and she was a kind, intelligent, and compassionate woman who brought joy and laughter back into my life. Looking back on that dark chapter of my life, I can honestly say that I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a painful and difficult experience, but it also made me stronger, more resilient, and more appreciative of the good things in my life. I learned that trust is a precious gift, not to be given lightly, and that forgiveness is a process, not an event. I learned that even when your world seems to be falling apart, there is always hope for a better future. And most importantly, I learned that I am capable of surviving anything, as long as I have the love and support of my children and my friends. Fleur's betrayal was a devastating blow, but it didn't break me. It made me stronger, more determined, and more committed to living a life of authenticity and integrity. So to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, I say this: don't give up. Don't let the pain consume you. Find your strength, seek support, and remember that you are not alone. You can survive this, and you can come out stronger on the other side. And as for Fleur and Quillon, I wish them no ill will. I hope they find happiness, even if it's a happiness built on a foundation of lies and betrayal. But I also hope they learn from their mistakes, and that they never again inflict the same pain on others that they inflicted on me. My life is moving on, and I can only hope theirs will improve too. I have my children, my photography, and Niam by my side. I am content, and that is all that matters.